Here we go again. Hello, good evening. Welcome along. We are a man down this evening as our good friend Gaz is having technical problems. But do not worry because we still have an incredible panel of gentlemen who join us tonight here on 4-0 Sunday Live. Thank you to Pepe, Jake and little Reese for being with us. Very much looking forward to our discussion tonight. A very warm welcome along to you at home. I asked where everyone's joining us from this evening and we've had a plethora of replies. Becky joins us from Salisbury. Fareham, a very good evening to Joseph who joins us. Little Hampson from Alex, up the Blues from Blue Army Rules all day long. Dan's excited for the season. Andy joins us from Canada. Welcome along to Cat from Canada. And Aaron joins us from the south of France. We've been seeing the adventures of Aaron in the last couple of days. As always, before we get chatting, let's have a quick reminder of what's happened in the last week or so, all the action since we last spoke. 3 first-team pre-season friendlies this week. It finished 1 apiece at Bognor, 2 late goals at Gosport Sealed, a 3-1 away win. And yesterday, a quiet afternoon ended 1-0 to Pompey at Wesley Park. We've also got the small matter of the incoming Regan Poole, who has been present watching the boys at some of the pre-season games this week. Plenty more to come on him before we leave you at 8 p.m. Plus the latest of the news that Gillingham are interested in the move for Sean Raggett. Also, some news on a potential loan move to Pompey for a certain Isaac Davis coming up soon too. And once again, a very busy week with loads to get into. Reese boy, welcome along. Hope you're well, mate. Thanks for joining us. A week closer to the season, of course. We spent a lot of time together this week. Many more reasons to be happy as a Pompey fan at the moment, bar a couple of injury concerns. What have you made of the last 7 days?
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed it because I've been to all 3 games with yourself, obviously at Bognor and then Gosport on Friday night and then haven't yesterday. I think it's fair to say the results could have been a little bit more convincing, let's say, with the squads that were put out. But then again, it isn't our strongest 11 that was playing every game together. So it was very mixed up with the academy and the first team. And I generally think at the moment, with 2 pre-season games still to go, obviously at Wimbledon and Bristol City, we will then start to see a little bit more minutes as a first team 11 looking to start the new season. So I'm not too worried about it. It was nice to stay out, nice to see a couple of fans that I've not met before either. But yeah, just the minutes in the bank, really.
A very happy birthday to Alex's son, Oliver. Happy 8th birthday today, mate. Hope you're having an awesome day. And amazing for you that a 4-0 Sunday Live falls on your birthday. So hopefully you're enjoying it. Jack wants you to know, Reese, that you singing Pompey has made his weekend. And it made a lot of weekends across the world, I'm sure, with people who saw that. Scotland as well. They're hugely impressed with the transfer activity early doors this season. They're hoping for a great season. And we did very much enjoy Spain. It was very much good fun. Pepe's first 4-0 Sunday Live of the season. So welcome to you, mate. Lovely to have you with us. How bizarre does it feel as a Pompey fan right now to be one of those teams that other people are or other teams around the country are looking at as the benchmarkers? This genuine belief that the squad assembled could end up putting something together this season.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, I can actually talk about being a Pompey fan. I mean, I now don't have to be neutral because obviously I'm not with the news anymore. But as a Pompey fan, Tom, I'm excited. I've told you the whole summer pretty much. The more signings we've made, which have been very good signings, by the way, not just squad players, which some will turn out to be, but they've been solid additions. And then obviously the big captures of Regan Poole, Anthony Scully, Gavin White. It's exciting. And I've told you the whole summer that I don't want to get too ahead of myself because we've been here many times before over the last 6 years that we talk so much in pre-season, we're getting the signings in and we fall off after a month. Hopefully that's different. And I mean, I was at the first training session of the season a couple of weeks ago and just the whole vibe around the camp, it seemed positive. Looking around the pre-season games, it looks positive. And I think a lot of Pompey fans are positive, as am I. So fingers crossed and may the signings continue. Absolutely.
Plenty more from Pepe as the show. And of course, he can leak all the inside information with no reproach. We got loads of exclusives and Pepe is free from Andrew. Let's crack on, Jake. We've dedicated a full 15 minutes of tonight's show to chat about Regan Poole, which I know will be music to your ears, and we'll explore this in a lot more detail, I'm sure. But you weren't best pleased when the moment came that it got announced. And I probably won't repeat what I saw pinging up on my phone on YouTube because we might not be here for very much longer. But in your mind and in some people's mind, and most Pompey fans' mind, was that the moment where you kind of turned Pompey's transfer business from a window fit to challenge in the playoffs to maybe something slightly more than that? What do you think?
First of all, I was extremely annoyed because it was an hour before my birthday on Tuesday that you announced it. So I was actually kind of happy that it got announced at 11 o'clock on Monday rather than on Tuesday morning, because that would have ruined my entire day. But no, look, it's for Pompey. It's a fantastic signing, and I'm sure you'll probe me later on. But it's one of those signings where I look across the division and go, has anyone got better than Regan Poole in their squad in that position? And I say no. And I would have said that when he played for Lincoln as well. So definitely starting to think about Pompey towards in my 1 to 24s, maybe thinking about breaking the top two. Not quite yet. I think there's a little bit more depth to come. I think if you get 1 or 2 injuries in key areas, then I think you might be in trouble. But certainly interesting to see where you can finish come May.
And we're going to discuss injuries a little bit later on as well, because we touched on it with Reese at the top of the show. But there's a bit of a list at the moment that Neil Allen's compiled for us all that I had a little look through this afternoon, and I was it took me by surprise. And I've got 1 or 2 names to add to that list, because Josh Dock wasn't on there, was he? So I don't know if you can add that. He's a first teamer now. We've got his new contract, so it's one of those. It's a toss up. Before we get on to that, let's chat pre-season. We obviously won't dwell on this too much because there's obviously not an awful lot going on this week in terms of pre-season and moments of games that we might hone in on a little bit more. Maybe a thought from yourself, Reece, if you've been at every single one of them. Triple sessions in Spain a few weeks ago, plenty of local fixtures in the last 7 days. No one can argue that boys haven't been well tooled up, can they?
No, I think, to be fair, obviously we were very, very lucky to go off into Spain and watch the training, only a couple of us, so we can definitely see the hard work that John's making them go through, especially when you've got all these new additions coming in. I know that we've highlighted there's been some injuries and some of them are the new players, but the majority of them that have got involved and that we've seen at first hand has been quite exciting to see. And it's like this every season, though, in respect that when you get the new players coming in, we always hope that it's going to be an improvement from last year for one reason or another. But I definitely do feel this year's a bit different. And with that being said, the attendances at Havant and Bognor and all that seems to be much higher than previous seasons, so it feels like everybody's got that buzz around again at the club.
And Pepe, it's a schedule that benefits from having such a squad at Messino's disposal right now. He's got loads of players to get rotated, and that's exactly what we've seen. And plus, an integration from the academy into the first team setup as well.
Yeah, very much so. It was good that they got the business done very early. 10 signings in nearly 4.5 weeks. And when I was speaking to John Messino over the last couple of weeks, that was sort of his thing that he was trying to nail into everybody was we've been planning since February the 1st. This is months of planning, and it's all come off in the first 4.5 weeks of the window. So credit to Rich Hughes as well. I know some people have touted him as the Messiah on social media. And it's plenty of optimism, and it's good that there's finally deals being done early rather than last year we were expecting signings in late August, which it might be the case, but you don't really want to build a team around players that come in late August. So it's good that the business has been done early, and
and still more to come as well, we believe.
I not a massive amount, but I think it's signings you pretty much expect really. Maybe another winger, a midfield 8 or a 10 that can play both, and then maybe if Oluwayemi and Stewart go out, then a backup goalkeeper. Other than that, maybe another centre back if Raggett goes or Minoga goes out on loan. But I think that's pretty much 3 or 4 more signings, and then that's Pompey done really.
Jake, how much do you read into pre-season preparations? I know you had probably one of your highest score lines in quite a long time yesterday, didn't you? I think, was it 7-0 away from home?
7-0, mate, absolutely.
How much can you look into a pre-season and go, right, off the basis of that, what that team's done, they're going to achieve this? It doesn't quite work like that, does it? Do you draw anything, or do you see it as preparation and solely that?
I think you can take some things. Obviously, when managers get appointed, they talk about patterns of play and trying to integrate that into the playing squad. I think if you can see the patterns of play that the manager's talking about in in your early pre-season friendlies, and that's a good indicator that the players are willing to learn and take everything on board that they've been given. But obviously, you're playing predominantly teams lower down in the pyramid than yourselves. Pompey are expected to go to Bognor Regis and Gosport Town or whatever and come away with a win, same as we were yesterday with Boston United, who play 3 leagues below us. A result maybe not that significance in terms of numbers was expected, but it's all about energy and fitness as well. If you're getting the minutes in the leg, so we got 60 in most of our lads yesterday. Pre-season is all about getting minutes into legs so that you're ready for the 5th of August and you're ready to go from day one.
We're going to get on to some Raggett news later on. And Adam wants you to do the dance. That is solely saved for when we score, Adam, as you know, first-hand experience. I will come to you, Reese, on Havant as the most recent pre-season game in the memory. How do you feel it went yesterday?
Truthfully, in terms of watching the whole 90 minutes, was quite boring. I'm not going to lie. But again, I did actually touch on it earlier from my point of view. It's just getting minutes into the players. And I think when you are looking at a pre-season, when you have got like 10 additions coming into the squad, it is about getting them all set for, like Jake said, the 5th of August, the first game of the season. But as a game yesterday, you can clearly see that John's trying to get the teams mixed up, and because obviously we sent the first team along to Gosport on the Friday, and then we obviously had another first team out on Saturday. And I believe it would have been slightly different if we didn't have them injuries. You would have had more names on the team sheet that was first team, but due to the injuries, I think it was definitely a mixed-shaped team, unfortunately. It kind of dented it a little bit going into the game, because previous years, as we know with Havant, they always put out a strong team, and due to the injuries and players needing minutes on Friday night, it just wasn't the way that it was meant to be set out.
Pepe, you were there too yesterday. A relatively quiet affair, bar Harvey Laidlaw playing Destiny Ojo in, which I believe would have happened right in front of you.
Yeah, it did. Apart from I missed it. I was in the queue for some food. Plus in the terraces as well, you couldn't really see, so I thought it went wide. Yeah.
How long were you in the queue?
Oh, it was. I gave up halfway. We went to another one. It was.
Wow.
That was not. I saw Jake Pompey Smith. He was moaning on Twitter, but
he's always moaning. So.
Well, I saw people when we left just before half time. There was people in the queue that started queuing at half time and were still there at the end of the game. So fair play to them for queuing for that long, but
it's not a place that's fit for 4,500, is it?
No.
And I think the one thing for me was some of the guys that we saw out in Spain that arrived. I think it was that they arrived on the match day, but I saw them in Murcia last year as well, and I saw him right at the front of the queue. I was like, "Oh, so how long have you been waiting for this?" And he went, "We were in this queue 10 minutes before kickoff." And I looked at my watch, and it was half time, and I was like, "So you've been there for just coming up to an hour in a queue for some food?" So
yeah, there were people there for a little while. I respect the grind, though.
Absolutely respect the grind, but
not an hour's worth of chips.
It's worrying to know that they probably didn't miss very much, given that they were stood in the queue for so long. Anyway, let's move on from food. Sam Falarin also unlucky, and a flag denied an excellent finish counting, but haven't, as we said before, Reese, and I know it's a place that you know very well, it's always a great day in the calendar and signals the approaching season, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I know fans have always said that we should be challenging, against higher opposition, and I completely understand where they're coming from in terms of obviously stop playing all these local teams. But actually, this is what it's all about. You play these local teams because it's normally their highest attendance of the season. It's revenue for them. It sets them up for the season. And obviously, we're always going to need favours off of them sometimes. You've got the Pompey ladies that have been obviously playing at Wesley Park for years and things. So it swings and roundabouts when it comes to helping out the local community and local clubs. So yeah, it's always a nice day out. It's a place that everybody can meet up. But yeah, like you say, the food situation, I didn't even bother queuing up, even though I'm always going to be the first one wanting a burger. I didn't bother.
And I know there's a couple of things I saw today. I think, is there an interest for Harvey Laidlaw and Toby Stewart to go to Gosport? Something like that I saw today as well. So there's, as you say, swings and roundabouts very much so. Right, let's move on from pre-season. I think that pretty much covers it. There's obviously not an awful lot more to say other than the kind of, I think it'd probably be fair to say that Gosport were the best side I saw this week. I don't know if that might be, I don't want to be rude to Havant, but I thought in terms of actually playing football-wise, I think they probably...
Bognor was up there.
What was Friday night? Friday
That
night
was
was Gosport.
Gosport.
I thought we were really lucky to get away with that one. I thought they should have run away with it. You think about the saves that Will Norris is pulling off. I know we can't really flash up. One thing we didn't mention, of course, was, and I'm sure Jake will love this as well, the little dancer had a special little moment, didn't he? Boom. Have some of that. Love that from little Joe. That's what we like to see. Probably the brightest of the moments that evening. But yeah, that's probably the standout. Right then, let's crack on. 280 if you join us live across YouTube and Facebook. So thank you so much for being with us. Welcome along to 4-0 Sunday Live. A very good evening to everybody. Ryan said at present, what's our strongest 11? Lack of goals coming from midfield still a concern. Are you at all concerned by midfield, Reece? Given, there's been some sizable additions to that particular part, and I'd say that's probably the strongest part of Pompey's squad at the moment, isn't it? The midfield. You look at Terry Devlin, you look at the potential 3 starters in Pack, Lowry, and Morel, and you throw in Ben Stevenson, who probably had a bit of an underrated performance yesterday that we haven't touched on. Midfield a concern?
I can understand why that's actually been put forward, but at the same time, we are still looking for a number 8 or a 10 in the squad, and there's a reason why we've identified that as a spot that we need to be filling. And also you need to take into account the reason why he probably feels that we're lacking goals in midfield is because, again, we've had a mixed-shaped squad that's been going out every week in pre-season. So until we get that starting 11 and we can see, obviously it's Morel, Pack, Lowry and Stevenson, up for grabs for the starting positions. But if we can finally get that number 10 in, I think that might obviously might change the opinions of many.
Harvey said, I'm an Exeter fan. Thoughts on Jack Sparks? I'm very excited by his balls into the box. I honestly saw such a progressive footballer there that I kind of went, you imagine Colby Bishop being on the end of those and licking his lips. What are you laughing at?
Nothing, Tom. Carry on.
Yeah.
No,
sorry.
go on. Do share.
I'm just having a drink. I think Pepe was laughing at something. I don't know.
No,
okay.
Carry on, Tom.
Lovely. Oh, is it the name?
No,
yeah.
No.
That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was the name.
What have I done?
Nothing. Carry on.
Nothing.
Okay, we'll crack on. Regan Poole, Jake, mentioned this to, I think it's about time. We mentioned this to Pepe at the top of the hour. It feels like significant. Well, I mentioned this to you, didn't I? It feels like a significant shift in expectation and perhaps even ambition. And it seems absolutely clear what this group wants to achieve, given the caliber of Regan Poole. Tell us about him.
Have I got to? Right, okay. Regan came to Lincoln. I'm trying to think when he came to Lincoln. So he joined Lincoln in the January of the season that we got to the playoff final. We bought him from MK Dons. Originally as a right wing back, probably not his best position, but I'll come on to that. He's struggled to get in the team because we had a young TJ Ioma who played at right wing back that season. It was fantastic, as you can remember, and the win at Fratton that you all would have seen. Had to get that in there. I do apologise. Also, and then Regan, the 21-22 season, Regan moved into a sort of a right centre back. So Mike Upton went to a back 3 rather than a back 4, traditional 4. And played between right centre back and then right wing back and was exceptional. I'm trying to think. He was probably one of the better defenders in the league. I've had this debate with Nappers so many times. Just dominant in every fashion of the game, on the floor, in the air, running forward. He scored a couple of really important goals. I think he scored one, a 90-minute winner at home to Charlton, which I think you guys have struggled against Charlton at Fratton Park in recent years. So that might do you a favour. And then this season whilst Tom Hopper was given the armband by Mark Kennedy in pre-season, Tom Hopper spent a lot of time injured and moved on to January, and Regan Poole took the armband. And whilst he maybe didn't run away with Player of the Year this year as he did the last in 21-22, he still had a really impressive campaign. Really vocal. He's a captain even without the armband. He's brilliant with the ball at his feet. He's a threat in the box, and he always gives 100%. And like I said to you earlier, Tom, I've told you pretty much all week since you signed him, I don't think there's a better defender in League One than Regan Poole, and I am so surprised. And I don't want to sound really negative from a Pompey point of view, but I'm really disappointed that he's not got the shot at the Championship. And I'm not saying that you can't offer that, because I know you probably can. You can probably get promoted this year. But I think of all the Lincoln players that have gone and moved into the Championship this summer. Now, hear me out, right? Hear me out. So I think of like Teo Eden, George Grant. Obviously, Brennan Johnson moved up. He probably deserved it. £60 million player, whatever he is. He's probably the one that we've had a permanent player that deserved the move up. I'm disappointed that he's not got it. But whilst that's bad for the Championship clubs who haven't recruited him, Pompey have taken advantage and struck a deal. So enjoy him.
There was a little bit of a, well, I think you probably joined the dots on this one, but there was can I just say as well, a very warm welcome to Nihila's Beats. And just before we do get back to you, Jake, I've realised what the rather immature Pepe Lacey was laughing at. It was a comment regarding balls into the box and Bishop licking his lips and all sorts. So if you're wondering what that was, rewind a couple of minutes, you can have a little laugh to yourself. I was going to ask you, Jake, you mentioned about kind of the deal to the Championship. You were concerned or were of the impression that perhaps something fell through that was already organised. Would you be able to elaborate for us?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that he had a deal all penned in to go and join a team that might have got 96 points out of this league last season and got promoted. They might play in blue and white stripes. I've got no idea. And only 20 minutes up the road as well. But when their manager asked for too much money, I've given it away now, haven't I? Sheffield Wednesday. If nobody knew, if you couldn't play ball, I think he had a deal to go to Wednesday also. And pretty much it was ready to go. And then Darren Moore goes and loses his job. I think he would have been a great signing for Wednesday. But yeah, I was pretty evident that I'd spoke to loads of Championship fans. I've done loads of things like this with Championship media. So I remember hopping on a Bristol City podcast and talking about Regan because he was heavily linked to go there. Cardiff were after me as well. I've literally just been following Regan Poole's career path here, and here I am at 4-0 Sunday Live. But it's a bit underwhelming, I'm joking. But no, yeah, look, everyone, and I think you'll see the reaction from Lincoln fans when it got announced that, like I said, they were genuinely disappointed that he's had to stay in League One because over the last 2 years especially, he's shown to us that he could do a job in a Championship comfortably and at a high level as well. So you've not only signed a centre-back that's too good for this level, but you've got one that's probably kicking on the door at least half the teams in the level above. So, yeah, I don't want to cry, so I'm not going to go on much more. But, yeah, really good signing for Pompey. Like, there's no other superlative. It's the best signing in League One this summer.
So far, out of all of them?
Out of all of them, I would argue, yeah. I mean, how many teams are going to pick up a consistently best performer in his area in the whole league this summer? You think about it. You think about all the best players that were in the league last year have gone up and got promoted. So you've got a player that knows how to get into the playoffs. Obviously, Lincoln in the playoffs as well. So I can't see anyone on paper that's made a better signing than Regan Poole.
We were hoping to be joined by Gaz this evening, and these boys will vouch for me that he was with us. He just couldn't hear us. We could hear him, but he couldn't hear us. So we decided it's probably best to not have him on this show because it might be a little bit carnage. We'll come back to Jake on the kind of the nitty gritty on Regan Poole. I promise not to throw too many more at you, mate, because I know it's a deeply distressing subject for you. Aside from what Jake just said there, Pepe, how good does it feel? Regan Poole as an addition, another one that was kept incredibly quiet and took everyone by surprise. And I with the Poole teaser and the video that came out at 5 to 11, I kind of sat up and thought, surely not. And then it came about. It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just sat on my Xbox and then look at Twitter in the middle of a pro clubs game, and there is Regan Poole. And I'm like, bloody hell! I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I did a story on 8 realistic free agent centre backs Pompey could sign, and he was up there as the top one. So I'm not taking any credit for that.
Can I say I nearly DM'd Pepe and said that is an unrealistic signing. You need to take that out of your article.
Oh, so is that serious? Well, that says more than anything that you just said. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I'm not. I'm the man himself. I know too much. So, but yeah, no. Honestly, I think just to be sat here as a Pompey fan and we're signing players that should be going into the Championship. like Jake's alluded to, and it's not really happened too much over the last couple of years that we're signing players for, I don't know how much money he would have, his wages are, but he would have, if he's going to Sheffield Wednesday, they're not going to pay him cheap, are they? So, and to get a player who should be in the Championship, I'm laughing. And Gavin White, Anthony Scully, add those two names to the list as well. And we're bringing in big players who want to be here, want to work under John Messina, and to have that sort of, I don't know, attraction, that sort of pull to bring in players.
We like it, that sort of pull up there. Love it. Unintentional as well. Sorry, carry on.
That one wasn't funny, Tom. Our one was funny. That wasn't funny.
Go on.
So it's good that we've got players coming in. So I'm optimistic and we're finally happy, Tom. So I'm
Best
happy.
of the 10 for you, Reese?
Yes, 100%, because you got fans that obviously say they've never heard of players, and I think as a collective I think this is definitely a name that a lot of Pompey fans would have heard of. You know, he's been a stalwart in League One for a couple of seasons now, and I'm definitely someone that's been a big admirer of his for the last couple of years. So it was just a nice treat for me to message Jake when it was announced that we signed him. That I knew that he was going to be gutted with it. So that was the first person I went to when we signed him. Because
can you take that off, please, Tom, mate? Can you? I don't want to do it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's that distraughting for him.
Can I press you a little bit more about the way in which you might fit in? Will you permit us to do that? You mentioned about a back three to me on the phone when we were driving back from, I believe it was Gosport. Dill was in the car, and you mentioned he'd be better suited to a back three. So are we saying a partnership with Riley Towler, or would that work? Do you feel like they would complement each other nicely?
I mean, it's hard. Obviously, I've not seen Riley Towler play week in, week out like I have Regan Poole.
Who would he suit then alongside him?
Well, I mean, I compare him to the centre halves that he played next to in his time at Lincoln. You've got last season Adam Jackson and Poole'D O'Connor, both players that are not veterans in the EFL, but have played hundreds of EFL games next to him. I think about the year before would have been Joe Walsh as well. I know another defender who's played a couple hundred games in the EFL, if not 300. And I think maybe a centre back, maybe Conor Shaughnessy would be a better option. Conor Shaughnessy obviously played a lot of years at Burton consistently. I think he might be a good option. You need not to say that you need an experienced head to go alongside Regan, because that would make it seem that he's immature and doesn't know the game extremely well. But he plays better when he knows that there's a central defender behind him, so he can go and overlap with the right wing back. So. Okay. It's interesting. I think it brings a real tactical flexibility to John Messina. You could play a back three, even of Towler, Shaughnessy and Regan Poole. Regan Poole being the right side of that back three. I think that would work really well. You've got the likes of, you could play Rafferty on the right, and then or Swanson, Thomas. I know you absolutely love him with Jack Sparks as a left wing back. That back five would nearly excite me as much as it would Derby County's. It's. I mean, I would play. I wouldn't want to play. I wouldn't play him in a back four. But you know, if John Messina's got the tactic board out and that's what he's playing, he'll have to do it. But better suited to a three, I think.
Dan would like to see some of the players doing the little Reese as a goal celebration. Dan, will do our very best to make that happen at some point, mate, making no promises, but I'm sure it will catch on. We're going to chat about injuries to the squad in a moment, Joe. Dan said defensively we look sorted, to be fair. Can't help feeling the key to this season, maybe how quickly we can move the ball in the final third. It has to be better than last season, absolutely. Andy said, out of all the youth players you've seen this pre-season, which ones would you be most likely to stick around and be given a chance versus going out on loan? I'll make the case again for Liam Vincent. I think he's had a fantastic week. I know we've had news of Harvey Laidlaw going out, and I suppose that's maybe a couple of years back from Liam Vincent in terms of his development. I'd love to see Harry Jewett-White sticking around in the starting 11s and the squads this season. I know he was very much part of it last season and made his professional debut at Fratton Park and all that kind of thing. I think probably those two, Liam Vincent and Harry Jewett-White. Any more to add in terms of the youth players you've seen this week?
He's not really a youth player, is he? Yeah, Hadji, I don't know, maybe a League Two loan. I know it didn't work at Gillingham, but that didn't work. But maybe another League Two loan. But then that depends if you want to keep Raggett do you then keep Minoga if you don't bring in anybody else? So I don't know, begs the question.
Begs the question. We'll get on to Raggett in a moment. Jake, finally on Regan Poole, I promise you we'll deviate away from him in a second. Concerns around his height that Pompey fans have raised. Anything you'd be able to quash?
No, absolutely don't be concerned. I know he's a bit smaller than your traditional centre-back. So I look at, you stand him next to Sean Raggett and Connor Shaughnessy, and bet he looks absolutely tiny, but the boy's got a leap on him. I don't think I ever saw him lose a header, and he must have played against John Daddy Bodvarsson last year, who was taller than him. Colby Bishop would be taller than him, and I think he did a pretty good job on... was it August we played you last year? It was, wasn't it? It was the first away game of the season for us. I think he did a pretty good job of keeping Colby quiet that day as well. So, look, height's not an issue. You know, you look at the top centre-backs in the Premier League, Lisandro Martinez is about 5'9", and he's one of the best defenders in the league. So I don't think height should be a concern to Pompey fans at all.
Lovely. Just quickly, bit of housekeeping. Paul said, has the microphone changed? No, it hasn't. I sent my microphones, the guy to the left of me on my screen, and I forgot to buy a new one. So that was the reason for that. But I have ordered another one, and it is coming this week. So no more wind, don't worry. And it was quite a windy day, and Reese will vouch for me that while we were going around filming, I was like, oh, that bit might be a bit windy. Let's do it again. We had to do probably 3 bits again, do you think, avoiding the wind?
No, you're lying, mate. It was absolutely fine. So you're just coming up with rubbish now. No, I'm joking. I can vouch for you, mate. Yes, it was extremely windy and we had to retake a few things.
Absolutely. Thank you for clearing that up. Dan said, HJ Dubs. Absolutely, yes. And of course, a shout for Kobe Motto as well. I think he's had a really good week too. So lovely. And didn't mention Destiny, did we? Of course, got to mention a bit of Destiny. And I love that he's called Destiny because you can... And we've got, who else have we got? Mojo. Oh no, Ojo's got his Mojo back. That's what Adam was saying, wasn't it? Is there another one? Aston as well. Aston Martin. Oh my word, someone's just joined us. Hello. Oh my word, what's that on your shirt?
Get a merch on.
Hello. I don't think we've ever seen that one before. How are you?
I'm all good, yeah.
Your head's cut off at this moment in time. I can't actually see you. Do you want to? You have to hover down a little bit. Hello.
Good evening, chaps. How are we?
Oh,
good evening.
How are you? You might have to come into the left a little, to your left a little bit.
Little Reese.
There we go.
Jakey boy.
How are you?
How's it going, fellas?
Have you?
Not bad.
Did you enjoy your week watching Pompey in pre-season?
Well, I enjoyed yesterday. It was an exciting game, wasn't it?
Not really, no. No, it wasn't particularly.
Well, funny enough, I was talking to Alan earlier on the phone about football in pre-season and what it really means. It's a run out, it's a kick about, as I said on your vid. It's just a warm-up, innit, for everyone, just to get some legs, a few players knocking a few balls about, nothing important. The key thing is we haven't lost any of the games. Aston Villa lost to Walsall.
No, they didn't. They drew 1-1 with Walsall.
They drew 1-1, but they were 1-0 down.
But that doesn't mean they lost, though, does it?
Well, it's close, isn't it?
It's not far off, no.
You talk about Walsall and a Premier... It doesn't matter, does it?
We did touched on that a little bit earlier. Yeah,
there you go. Well, I wasn't in the room, was I?
No, I'm sure you weren't, and you weren't. You were busy watching the Spanish guy downstairs,
loved it,
hitting the balls around.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've had enough of balls so far this evening with Pepe, so I think we're going to move on. Anything on Regan Poole, just quickly?
What's that? Henri Poole?
Regan Poole. Jake's very upset that he's joined us because he thinks he's absolutely tremendous. Well, we're very much looking forward to seeing him.
It's interesting. I'm looking for the starting 11. I'm really excited about this boy. Really excited. There's a lot of good players there, Tom. Let's just see. I think Wimbledon away on Tuesday night. That you should play
That's over now. That's all done now.
Probably play the first team.
No, Wimbledon's finished now. Oh, sorry, talking about the football.
Wimbledon away on Tuesday night.
Sorry, that was terrible. That's even worse, wasn't it?
I think we should be playing the first team players at least, or at least rotate them a little bit, and also against Bristol City because we're going to need to, aren't we?
You want him to start getting his.
We need
the
team out there kicking the ball together, don't we?
Lovely. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Pleasure.
You all good?
Yeah, I'm listening to what you're.
You're going to listen to what the boys say. Final one on Regan Poole that's not directed to Jake, I promise, and we'll move on. He's very slowly. I can see the tears are starting to dribble, so we'll crack on. How nice is it, Reese, to hear someone external to Pompey? I know Jake kind of has his connections to us through the channel and through going to the football with us, etc., and a few projects that we're working on for the upcoming season as well, which we'll keep very hush. There were a few hints dropped on. Was it Friday night or Thursday? Thursday?
When?
With Nappers.
Oh, Thursday, yeah.
It was Thursday, so there's a few hints dropped there. Nice to hear someone who's not involved in the football club say we're signing one of arguably the best in his position in the league, and we're having an incredibly exciting window. But obviously the pressure, as we've spoken about on many times, and as I spoke to Pepe about at the top of the stream, was kind of, what are you doing? Making loud noise. I spoke to Pepe at the top of the stream and said how, we're the benchmarkers. That comes with its downsides as well, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And like you say, it's really nice now to finally have positives from other fans about players that we've brought in, because on a number of occasions, even like Shaughnessy and that, a lot of fans from other clubs that have had him have been quite reserved about the positives that the player has and what they've done for that club as well. So it's really, really refreshing to see. And again, it's another player that I knew about, and you've got one or two others like Scully and that's obviously had some really good positive feedback about the way they play and the way they've performed in past. So it's really, really refreshing to see.
AP says, I know I'm a bit of a nerd, but any noise on the away and third kits, all the light I can shed is that neither of them are blue. That is an exclusive here on 4-0 Sunday Live. I'm not sure if anyone. Have we heard anything, Pepe, recently?
No.
And not 125 apparently, but the extent of which that's going to be true. There was also a rumor about salmon pink as well, but we're also very important not to give anything away or maybe say something that might not even turn out to be true. Other things that may not even turn out to be true, nice little segue, is the news that Sean Raggett, or interesting reports surfacing this morning with regards to a potential move for him to Gillingham. This has stirred up quite a conversation on social media, and no doubt our panel here tonight will have plenty to say, because I know Jakey Boy has recent experience with Sean Raggett as well. Reece, we've obviously had our fair share of discussions on Sean Raggett here on the channel over the years, and of course on this show in particular. I'm sure there's no one doubting his contribution and dedication to our club, but ultimately I think a lot would argue that if Pompey are to be promoted as we wish, perhaps Sean Raggett isn't quite the standard of central defender that we're going to need to get us there.
I think that's fair to say. And look, I've had many conversations lately about Sean Raggett and the way that my opinions can be quite, let's just say, overwhelming in regards to the negativity that I discuss about him. Let's be fair. But at the same time, I can understand where people's coming from in regards to aerial battles and that he's very good at. Other than that, I don't have a great deal of positivity to say about him, and that's just my personal opinion from watching him all these seasons. Is there better out there? Yes, but we need to be careful with making sure that we get the right player in to replace him, because he's got all that experience. He is someone that I can envision that if we was to keep, he'd be absolutely fantastic to come on to defend a lead, or maybe if somebody gets injured and say a derby away or somewhere like that where it's really, really hostile. But then again, Raggett deserves first team football, doesn't he, at the end of the day? And I know fans do rate him, but then at the same time, I can understand where there are fans going a bit over the top about him and giving him too much stick that he doesn't deserve. Yes, I've probably been one of them people before in the past to say too much negativity about him. I respect the guy. I really do. He's done a lot for Pompey in the time that he's been with us. But I believe, having watched him enough times to see where we need to improve on, it is at the back. And with Regan Poole coming in and Towler, he isn't going to get as many first team minutes as he had hoped anymore. So it is looking like, for both parties, the best decision that he goes out. And again, I know I've talked a lot of negativity about him, but I'd wish him nothing but the best if he moved on.
Dan said, love Rags, but he's a season past his best. This will be interesting, actually, because you had one Pompey view from Reece. From obviously, it's not an extreme view, and I think it's something that everyone could definitely get on board with. Pepe, you've been, I'm not going to say a massive Raggett backer, but you've probably stuck by him on the chat and here on the channel. How are you feeling about these developments? Is Raggett League 2 standard? Because I don't think he is, even though I maybe sway towards Reece's side of the debate.
Yeah, no, I think first things first, it's come from Alan Nixon, and again, I'm not saying it's not true, and I'm not saying it is true, but quite a lot of the time when you put on a rumour to John Messino is say 2 and 2 equals 5. Raggett comes from Gillingham, Kenny Jackett linked there as well. That could be where it's come from. Who knows? But League 2, will Gillingham be pushing for promotion next season? Absolutely. Do I think a drop to League Two for him would be fair? Probably not. I think he's still very much a League One player. And I've said this quite a lot. I'd like to have Sean Raggett as a backup than Haji Minoga, so to say, if you want to push for promotion. But then again, he might want that first team football. And currently, there's no guarantee with Regan Poole coming in. Shaughnessy looks all right in pre-season. Towler, obviously. And we spoke to John Messina last week at the news, and they said they've completely ruled Sean Raggett out as a left centre-back. So he will purely play as a right centre-back. And that's it. So he's very limited to just one position. And if you've got Regan Poole there, who's going to be a starter, Shaughnessy can play there as well. There might not be much game time. So I have said I'd like to keep him, but a year on his contract would. And if someone came in with money, you wouldn't sort of turn it down, would you? He's 29, could get a bit of money, but would he want to drop to League Two? Obviously, a player has a say in a move as well. So yeah, it's a tough one. But again, they need to bring someone in. Obviously, I wouldn't like Haji Minoga as my backup personally after the season he's just had, but yeah, you need a backup. But I do like Sean Raggett, but I think maybe it could be time to go if the rumours are true.
It's great to have so much balance on the show. I think it's really important that we kind of present both sides of the argument. Jake, I feel like Raggett's a little bit hard done by, because Pepe's saying they're absolutely ruling him out playing as a left-sided centre-back. But that is kind of where he's been for in a Pompey shirt for quite a while. Given that he's so right-footed, I feel like they've not given him a great deck of cards, have they? And they haven't let him play to his full potential. And I use they as a kind of blanket term for Pompey administrations in the years gone by. Welcome along, everybody, by the way, if you're just joining us. 20 minutes left here on 4-0 Sunday Live tonight, and there's 254 of you join us, so thank you for being with us. We're here most Sundays for this season with all the very best chat. Jake, tell us the story about that brilliant moment with Sean Raggett in a Lincoln shirt, because some of us might not have heard it.
Goodness me. Are you sure we've only got 20 minutes left? Because I could literally
in as brief as possible, yeah.
Of course. I mean, we signed him from Dover. I remember that he was exceptional the year before. And I think Pepe's right. I think he came through the youth ranks at Gillingham, so the move would probably make a lot of sense in terms of being closer to home, etc. But yeah, signed from Dover as the only centre-back in the league that can handle Matt Reed. I don't know if that's a name you guys are familiar with. Matt Reed at Mansfield, big, massive centre-forward, only player that could handle him. So we thought we'd sign him. Excellent in our title-winning season of the National League. I think he scored 10 goals from centre-back in the league. And then obviously the most famous goal he scored away at a Premier League team in the FA Cup in the 89th minute to make history. You know, nothing major. But honestly, I can't tell you about the limbs, because I ended up fracturing my leg celebrating. So the limbs were superb. Sean Raggett is a great bloke and a great footballer who deserves more than to be a rotational option at Pompey. So if he can get himself a move to Gillingham with a team that are probably one of the favourites to get promoted out of League Two, it's closer to home, like I say. I think Sean should be all over it. I don't think he should be holding out for a League One. Gillingham are probably going to be in next year anyway. So look, Sean Raggett's a great bloke, great footballer, and caused me a lot of pain, but also a lot of joy at the same time. So we love Sean.
And Gillingham, a team obviously that are, I wouldn't say splashing the cash, but they're not afraid to spend a bit of money, are they? And as Pepe mentioned, year left on his contract. All that he's done for the club, 29. There's still a season or two of good football out of Sean Raggett, I'm sure. Gav said, excuse me, Gav says, will ever have my total respect after watching him in his North Stand adventures. Yep, he is a bit of a warrior, and that's absolutely what we give him all the credit for. Raggett is terrible, no loss. Hopefully he picks up his boots and goes. Dan said, I respect Sean Raggett, but he's suitable for a mid-table or lower League One team. Andre said Raggett's positioning was awful last season, far too many mistakes. Jack said, as we've just been detailing there, would be the right move for both parties, but the move is quite harsh. Raggett still has the caliber for League One. I think that pretty much says everything, Reese, other than Pepe touched on it there, and we're not wishing to call out certain journalists, but this comes from the same source that suggested that the Colby Bishop move was off last summer. So quite a bit of salt to pinch with this one, potentially.
Yeah, but it's like every player. You check out Twitter, you're refreshing it every 2 minutes just to see if there's any transfer rumours to do with your club, whether that's coming in or going out. But again, it does all line up, to be fair, this kind of transfer, purely because he knows the area. I'm sure he's got loads of family around that area as well. And there is the potential for Gillingham, because they now have the funding to go out and smash the cash for a League Two club, to be promoted back to League One for next season anyway. So it could be true. If not, we'll have to see and see how Raggett does at Pompey next season if he doesn't go.
And finally, on the Raggett thing, Pepe, this news will also cast Pompey's mind, or Pompey fans' minds, to the prospect of Dijon Bernard incoming. If we are to believe this rumour, and that's all it is about Raggett, then you would have thought, we spoke about how good and the Messiah Richard Hughes has been with his transfers so far. You would have thought that a suitable replacement would have been lined up. If not, he's ready to go. And there's a perfect one in the waiting in Bernard, if that championship move that we're led to believe he's interested in doesn't come together for him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think after the Bognor game, Messina came out and didn't shut down the links to Bernard, which I think me and Neil, who were covering the game, Neil Allen, we were just a bit like, I couldn't believe it. Regan Poole seemed to be that person that there was no, what's the word? There was no guarantee Bernard will come. So they've gone with Regan Poole, who's still available. And you're thinking, all right, but the Bernard rumour over. And he's come out and said, well, we're still interested with Bernard, which if it does come to fruition, then that'll be one solid defensive partnership there. And yeah, it would be difficult. And I trust Rich Hughes. I'm sure they'd have someone in line if Raggett was to go. They wouldn't just let someone leave. Like at left back, for example, if Hume was to go, they had Sparks ready and waiting. They brought Sparks in early, obviously, but there is planning. And I'm sure they'll have other options. They had a contingency plan anyway if they didn't get Bernard. So they'd once again return to that list, I'm sure, and would find a suitable option.
Couple of things. I know we said we were going to talk about injuries, Reece, and I know it's a pretty boring subject that we probably don't want to get into too much. But I think it's quite important because obviously at this stage, pre-season, and everyone's seen the kind of list pile up and go, oh crikey, this reminds me of what's been happening over the last couple of years at Pompey in terms of injury woes. But at the moment, Josh Stock came off, as we saw in front of us, with a pretty nasty blow to the knee. So we hope he's all good with that. Joe Rafferty, Colby Bishop, Christian Sadie, Gavin White's ill, Cassini Engi, Connor Shaughnessy and Tom Lowry weren't available on Saturday. The extent of which, of course, there are some in there that are knocks, and perhaps in a regular season, Messino's come out and mentioned that they'd probably just have to work through that and would be available. How much are you reading into injuries at Fratton Park at the moment, and is it a cause for concern for you?
See, the reason why I do see it as a cause of concern is purely because of how close the season's coming up, and the numbers that are out injured isn't actually the issue for me. It's the actual caliber of players that are injured. So you've got Bishop, Lowry, all first team players. Look how well Bishop done for us last season. And if he's only if we're only 2 weeks away from the start of the season and he's only had one game for pre-season, which was in Spain, and that wasn't even a full 90, it's all about getting the minutes in. So we do talk about pre-season and the benefits from it. So if we're talking about getting players fit and ready and having minutes in their tank ready for a full season, if they're not even getting that because they're injured, then it is a concern for me. But yeah, like you say, you've had like Josh go off injured and things. It doesn't matter if they're first team or not. It's always never nice, obviously, before a season starts for them to go off injured and worry about how long it's going to be. Even if it is just a knock, it's still against the time frame that the manager sets out for players to get the fitness ready for the season.
It's a really good point, isn't it, Pepe? And to what extent are you along the lines of, yeah, I get the point that you're not wanting to risk, John, but also, as Reece is just saying there, we're not far off getting going now. So if these boys aren't really ready back for Wimbledon and then Bristol City and then Bristol Rovers, you start to worry a bit more, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And if they weren't featuring against Wimbledon next week and Bristol City, next week, then there obviously is a bit of cause for concern. Can I understand why they didn't play against Havant? Absolutely. It was a 3G pitch, so that could cause problems in itself for players who are coming back. I think I read in Neil's article that 4 of the 5 that were injured, I think the only one was Tom Lowry, would have played in a regular season game. Yes, it would be nice if they got minutes, but I think if they're playing against Wimbledon and Bristol City, they're then that's obviously a lot better than if they're playing against Gosport and Havant and Bognor, teams like that. So yes, it'd be nice to get their fitness up, but I think if they're not playing by Wimbledon and Bristol City, then it's a cause for concern. But I mean, they were training Thursday and Friday anyway, so it's not as if they're not out sideline. They are training. So yeah, just wait and see really. And I know the numbers aren't nice, but I don't think it should really be a problem unless they get like a significant injury.
What's the injury to
AP
Gavin White?
Sorry?
What's the injury with Gavin White? Sorry, I never knew what the injury was because I know he was out with international duties, then came in. So I want to know what the injury might have been to keep him away for so long now.
I think he's unwell. Illness.
Oh, okay.
Am I right in saying that? I think.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know.
Well, Fournilwrittenalloverit sources was suggested he's unwell,
Yeah.
so there you go. AP said, thanks for the details. You're more than welcome, mate. Thank you for that. And Ozzy seems to have heard it as well, so there we go.
Must be true.
Jake, from the outside looking in at this, it's not a great position to be in with the kind of the knocks, is it? And when you're kind of looking, we spoke about how great the transfer window's been, and you even mentioned it, I think, at the top, without perhaps knowing the extent of the injuries, where you say unless you get a couple of knocks and then you're starting to really struggle. I'm looking at that. Christian Sadie's a summer arrival, as is Gavin White, as is Cassini, as is Connor Shaughnessy. So what? 4 of the 6 or 7 names I've mentioned there have only just got here. Perhaps that's the biggest cause of concern.
Yeah, and you know what? You're reading the calibre of player that Reece has just said there, and you're starting to get a little bit worried because a lot of those would make an impact in the first team, against Bristol Rovers on the first day. I mean, if they could all be out until like the 22nd of September or something, that would be absolutely fantastic. But that's going to be quite unlikely, my sources tell me. I mean, but it's also really important that, they've only just arrived, but you still want to get the minutes into their legs. So, I mean, I give us as an example, we got 60 minutes into most of our lads yesterday, especially we played a strong team at the beginning and then gave the lads 60 minutes. So the likes of Rico, I'm hoping that you're going to ask me about Rico at some point, who played really well.
Come in. Go on then, Rico.
Rico, what a player. What are you boys thinking? Honestly, unbelievable yesterday. I know it's Boston United, but honestly, I've never seen anyone quite as close to Lionel Messi before, ever. Anyway, yeah. But look, it's important to get the minutes into the legs for the new boys as well, because you want to get them up to date with the styles of play and the patterns of play that you're going to put on performance this season. And to have a lot of them unavailable this early when you want to be putting them across is worrying. And if you've not got Colby Bishop or Christian Sadie fit for the first game of the season, you're thinking, right, are we going to play up front? And then you're thinking about moving Scully out of position, or you're thinking about playing Yangi, who might not be fit, or do you know what I mean? You're thinking about maybe your third, fourth choice for that position, and that's a really important position because last year you got 20 goals from there. So I would be a little bit concerned, but I'm sure Rossinho will give them all a little bit of a kiss on the knee and it will all clear up fine.
Dan is always very calm in a crisis and said 10 days is a lot of recovery time. When you're still in your 20s, I wouldn't panic yet. So we shall not panic. That's the second time Dill's posted that exact comment tonight. So he's really keen to get that message across to you, Jake. So there you go.
Thank you, Joe.
I love how we brushed it off on Thursday as well. I was like, yep, Dill, thanks, mate. Moving on.
Yeah.
Honestly, could tell he was not particularly happy, but we're going to let him be sad about Regan Poole in private now, so we won't mention it anymore. One name we will mention is Isaac Davies. Probably going to go with Davies. I'll go with Davies.
Hey, let's go Davies. Yeah,
let's go with Davies. Last couple of minutes here on 4-0 Sunday Live have always been dedicated to incomings chat, and this one will be no different, with the last 3 for definite. Interesting news today. Pompey are among 2 other teams in the running for the loan acquisition. First concrete rumour for a while, really, I believe, Pepe, given how under wraps things have been. And this one comes with a little bit attached to it. Something we've been saying over the last couple of weeks is that winger that you mentioned earlier on. This guy looks like he's probably more suited to kind of that second striker role, but I believe can play right across the sort of forward attacking line. So an exciting prospect. And is he that kind of that one of those names that Richard Hughes said is one of the four? Is he going to be that winger potentially?
Yeah, Patel, I'm just looking at transfer market now. His main position's a striker, which Pompey have already ruled out. They're not looking to bring in another striker, but he can also play quite a lot on the right and the left. So maybe if they're looking at another winger, which I think they certainly will be, probably on loan. I think that Isaac Davies, I think that guy said it will probably be a loan. I think because I just typed his name into Google, and last August, Burnley have £2.5 million Isaac Davies transfer bid rejected. So that was only 12 months ago, and he's played 12 games this season. That's just looking at it off the surface. So it's nice that there's a transfer rumour for once. I mean, it felt like quite a while. Is he the profile of player Pompey are looking at? If he can play as a second striker, does that mean he can play as a number 10? I don't know. But yeah, it's certainly another winger, a young winger as well. I think is sort of a winger on loan is what the inkling I've sort of worked out. So yeah, no, if Pompey can get a player that was £2.5 million last summer, then absolutely bring him in. Why not?
Reece, what do you make of the prospect of this guy? 21, 42 appearances for Cardiff since his debut back in October 2021. Anything you wanted to add?
Well, look, any experience in the Championship, which is a higher division than we're currently in, I'm all for. Especially if they've got a point to prove and they're still young in their career. I'd be happy to bring any player of that caliber in, of course.
Lovely. And Jakey boy, an area I would say we're pretty well stocked. The kind of, I would worry he may go elsewhere just because of the nature of it. Pepe mentioned it there. You've now got, I know, two of them are in the medical treatment room at the minute. With Christian Sadie and Colby Bishop, but then also your kind of your third out and out forward player as Cassini Yengi. Is there really going to be, if he's looking at that thinking, Pompey got 3 strikers on the books already. I know he could play as a winger as well, but then he's then going to look down the list and go, oh, Scully's there, Paddy Lane's there, Gavin White's there. Would you be inclined to choose maybe an Oxford or a Charlton other than Pompey just because of the packed out nature of that particular area in the pitch at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's really important when you send your best prospects out that you're sending them to a team where you know they're going to play. It's pointless. You know, you count throughout the years how many loans you just had there that are just not played and just used to make up the bench. And I can think we had Tashan Oakley-Booth last year who was similar, who we were stacked in midfield. We didn't need a midfield and we still brought him in and we were wondering why. So, and it's really important for a player's development that they go to the right club. So I'm thinking, you mentioned Charlton there. They've got Alfie May and Miles Leeburn. Is he going to overload someone like them? I don't think so. There were 2 very good centre forwards. Maybe, and Wardy will be extremely happy to hear this, I'm sure that Oxford probably would be a very good destination. They've got Mark Harris they signed from Cardiff, so maybe I'm struggling to find another centre forward that they've actually got on the books in a minute. So, because I know they had Carl Joseph last year, but he's at Blackpool now. So maybe Oxford, they've got a bit of a link with Cardiff, selling Gavin White there as well. Obviously selling Harris, they're not far geographically. Maybe Oxford might be the move, and we might see a very excited Wardy in a couple of days' time.
They are crying out for a number 9 for definite, and I believe they signed a certain Ruben Rodriguez. He hasn't really mentioned it very much in the last. I don't know. He's kind of not really been given much, especially for Wardy. He's not really mentioned it. One other thing with the link, Welsh under-21 international. So I don't know whether he would have been there with our friend Mr. Poole, or whether there may be links to our little man Joe Morrell. There's a little couple of connections there as well. So we'll be interested to see who wins that race. Right, that is almost it from us. It is just gone 8 o'clock, so our hour is up, I'm afraid. One more thing to say, Reece. Finally, handful of weeks to go now. Starting to get excited yet?
Oh, mate, I'm so excited. Generally, the season's about to start. The optimism's going to be going around the whole ground at Fratton Park come the 5th of August, and we're going to win 4-0, and it's going to be the first one of the show where you're going to get the dance.
Boom. Looking forward to it. And Pepe, much more from the stands for you this season, I would imagine?
Yeah, I'll try and go to as many away games now as possible. Now I've been released, I'm trying to go to. I might try and. No, I'm not going to try and do the 46, but that'd be quite ridiculous, and I don't have the money for that. But yeah, I'll try to go to as many away games as possible. I've obviously got my season ticket, and I will be here with my trusty old bucket hat that arrived.
Oh, he's actually got one.
I
Go
went
on,
and
stick
got
it on your
one,
bonds,
so-
son. Go on, let's have a look.
Look, there we go. The old trusty bucket hat. It's going to the festival. So
Yeah,
get
fits
it going.
all right, doesn't it?
It's a bit small, isn't it? I don't. Yeah.
There you
Everybody's
go.
saying it's a bit small, which for my head it quite is. So
There
yeah,
you go.
I'll be wearing
Yeah.
that on the opening day. So out the Blues.
I've got a massive head, mate, so I wouldn't be suiting
Ruin
that.
my
But
hair,
if you see a bloke who you recognise off 4-0 Sunday Live on Southsea Common for Victoria, so one of those on, you know exactly who it is. There you go.
Yeah. I'm recognised more on this than I was for my actual job at the news. So
Well,
This is a job, mate. This is a job as well.
yeah, well, I'm paid job, but come on, Tom.
Pepe, you wait till you join Tesco on loan, mate, after you've left.
Oh, mate, I might have to eat Tesco on loan very soon.
Nothing wrong with club card prices. I'm telling you now, staff discount. Nothing wrong.
Jakey
Anyway.
boy, any more from you, son?
Any more from me? Well, I mean, you didn't even ask me about Tyler Walker, which I'm gutted about.
We don't need to talk about that. Definitely don't.
It's all negativity this end, Jake. So we're saving you a conversation about it.
Just you absolutely wait. But no, I mean, I'm hoping you were going to ask me about. Obviously, I've got the channel starting in the season as well. I'm sure Tom's going to be kind enough to drop a link in the description. You can come and check it out. We're starting in 8 days now. The launch is, which will be pretty exciting.
Wow.
But, I know, innit? And then obviously we've got one of the two things in the pipeline, which will be coming in a couple of weeks as well. So really excited. But if you could come and check us out, that'd be great.
And what's it called?
Yes.
Channel 72, boys, if you wouldn't mind.
Links in the description. And there's an Instagram account to follow as well, I believe, isn't there? Is there a Twitter yet?
Yeah, mate, there's Instagram and Twitter. You want to get behind it?
Oh, huge. Oh, massively behind it, mate. Behind you all the way. Love it. Right. Not quite all the way, but you know what I mean. Anyway, that's it from us. Thank you for joining us here on 4-0 Sunday Live. We'll be back. We've got a little bit of break now. No more games for a little while, but we'll be back for Wimbledon in a couple of weeks. Last pre-season will be Bristol City. Then Bristol Rovers make the trip to Fratton Park where the season really gets going and the big stuff begins. Thanks for joining us. See you in a couple of weeks and play at Pompey. Don't say up the imps for crying out loud. I'm just going to mute him now so he didn't say up the imps.
Come on, up the imps.
Play at Pompey.